Welcome to Othar's Garage. In this video, I'll be working on step 8 and 9. Step 8 is the front shock tower assembly, and step 9 is the front bulkhead rear shock tower installation. So let's get started. So for step 8 and 9, we're going to need bag 6. So this is bag 6, and it says the ball cups are in bag 2, but I found them. The turnbuckles are already assembled, and it was a bag 6 located with some other parts. So check your bags and go ahead and find that as well. We're going to use the supplemental manual because that shows step 9. It's going to be slightly different than what is in the original manual. So for step 8, the front shock tower, we're going to need the front shock tower, which is in bag 6, so we can get that out. We're also going to need the shock cap ball and 2 M3x10 button head screws, so we can go ahead and get those. The shock cap balls are nicely anodized aluminum, very good quality. So we're going to need 2 of those, and looks like they're all the same size. So I'll need 2 of those. We're going to need 2 M3x10 button head screws, along with our front shock tower. So the front shock tower is this piece right here. So we can get this off the parts tree and trimmed. All right, so take note on the orientation of the front shock tower. It is directional. There's this side here that has kind of a lip, and on the back side, it's pretty much flat. So we're going to install the screws from the back side, and then the shock cap balls are going to go on the front. And since these are aluminum, we're going to use a little bit of blue Loctite so that way they don't come out. And we're going to install them in the second hole from the outside. So in this hole and in this hole. So that's it for step 8, the front shock tower. And it looks like we're gonna set this aside because it'll be used in another step. And we're gonna go ahead and move on to step 9, which is the front bulkhead and rear shock tower installation. And we're gonna use the supplemental manual. So if yours came with the supplemental manual, please make sure you're using that. And the first thing in the instructions, it shows that the ball ends are included in bag number 2. And again, that's not the case for me. The turnbuckles are already made, so just make sure that you find those in your bag. And we'll do a double check to make sure that these are made to the correct length. It's supposed to be 54.4 millimeters. And that's pretty close. It's 54.3, 54.4. Let's double check. Maybe I was, yeah, this one is 54.3, but we're gonna have to adjust those once they're on the car anyway. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave it as it is and continue. So we're gonna need, looks like 4 M3x10 flathead screws and 8 M3x10 button head screws, along with 2 millimeter black spacers, 2 shock cap balls, and 2 ball studs. So we have our shock cap balls, our ball studs, and spacers that came out of the same bag. And we're going to go ahead and grab our screws now. All right, so we're going to need the upper arm mount and the front bulkhead. So this is the front bulkhead. So what it looks like, I need to do a little trimming. And then we are going to need the upper arm mount, which is this piece right here. So we can get this off the parts tree and trimmed. Note the position on how this installs. There's a top side and a bottom side. So it's going to install like so. It's going to install like so. These two holes are closer together and they will line up with the front bulkhead. But notice the way the part is designed here. This is a 90-degree angle, and that will face down. And then this angle here is not really 90 degrees, and it'll kind of interfere on how it installs. So that's how it goes. We're going to use 2 M3x10 button head screws to install these. And you're going into plastic, so you don't want to crank down on it too hard. Once you feel it shoulder up, it's good. You don't want to strip out the plastic. All right, we're going to need the next piece, which is the bulkhead rear, which is this piece off the parts tree. So let's go ahead and get that off and trimmed. And we're going to install it like so. So notice that these two holes are going to be close to the upper arm mount, and we're going to install the 2 screws, the M3x10 screws, through this hole and this hole, and they're going to install into this hole and this hole. All right, so now this is ready to install onto the chassis. So we're going to take the 4 M3x10 flathead screws and install this onto the chassis. So this part goes towards the front of the car, and this is going to go towards the rear of the car. Let's move this kind of out of the way. So it's going to install like so. So that means we're going to install the flathead screws in this hole, and these 2 holes up here. So from the bottom, they're going to be here, 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 and here. All right, the front bulkhead is now installed. We can set the chassis aside for now, and we can focus on the rear shock tower. So we're going to need that off the parts tree, which is this piece right here. So let's get this off. Now take a note that the shock tower is directional. So we're going to install the screws from this side, which is the front of the vehicle, and the shock cap balls on the back side, which these spots for where the shock cap ball goes are kind of inset or have little pockets. So just take note of that. And they're going to go in the outermost hole. So let's go ahead and install that. We're going to take 2 M3x10 screws and add a little bit of Loctite. And then we'll go ahead and install the shock cap balls. Next, we're going to go ahead and install the ball studs, which are going to install on the innermost and lowest most hole, which is going to be this one right here and this one right here. So we're going to install the ball stud with the 2mm aluminum spacer. So the locations of the ball stud and the shock cap balls are different in the supplemental manual as compared to the original, as well as the turnbuckle lengths are also different. So that's just something to note. Now we're going to install the turnbuckles onto the ball studs, but we want to do two things. We want to make sure that the notches on the turnbuckle right here are facing the left side of the vehicle. And we're also going to install this side onto the ball stud. So take a note that there's a larger space here and a less space here. We're going to install this side onto the ball stud. So we know that this is the back side of the vehicle. So I want to make sure that the notches are going to face the left side and that we're installing the ball cups in the correct orientation. There we go. Now we can install this assembly onto the chassis. So we're going to need 2 M3x10 screws. They're going to install in this hole and this hole. And then on the back of the chassis, they're going to install into this hole and this hole. So this was the last part in bag 6, and it says that this part is not used. So I'm just gonna put this back in the bag and keep it in my box in case it's used for a later step, or it might be a tuning option. I don't know. So just keep it just in case. So that is it for step 8 and 9. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you did. Let me know down in the comments if you had any issues. I'll do my best to help you out if I can. And I'll try to be posting more videos of this build soon now that I have more time. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one.